alternative. We're a pro-white advocacy group, and we campaign for the rights of the Indigenous British, the Indigenous Scots, English and Welsh on these islands. We want to put British people first. Scotland for the Scots! We were never asked. Have you ever consulted about these migrants being kept here at our expense at the Falkirk Cladhan Hotel? Did they ever ask you? Were your parents or your grandparents ever asked about this immigration into our country? Did they ever ask you to put these freeloaders, these parasites, preying and sponging off us in the Cladhan Hotel? Do you want to send them back to where they came from? Again, we've gathered here today supporting this protest. We've gathered here today protesting the decision to house these illegal migrants at our expense in these hotels up and down the country. Did you ever vote for this? These people coming here should have the right to their own homeland, whilst we in turn get to keep ours. Falkirk people, are you going to keep coming here? Are you going to keep coming here getting Starmer, Swinney, Badenoch et al. Told? Are you going to keep coming here and letting them know? Are you going to keep coming here and telling them that we do not want this and that Falkirk says no? If we allow things to continue as they are, white British people will be a minority in Britain as a whole by the 2050s or sooner. Do you want to be a minority in your own homeland? When they eventually close this hotel, we need to know how many council houses and private lets are available. We need to find out if they are being moved from this hotel into your communities. It is clear that Starmer et al. Are playing a game of cat and mouse when it comes to these hotel protests. If we can keep the pressure up, then the local authority and the private housing providers who benefit from these lucrative Home Office contracts enjoyed by Mears et al. Are now under scrutiny. The system is unworkable, and as our beloved communities awake and discover who they are, we must look for loopholes in their planning and housing list regulations. We note that the Supreme Court in our country has been subverted. For example, the Epping Hotel has been allowed to operate ad interim pending the full hearing of the case. Their courts will always side with their immigration agenda. We need to keep the pressure up, and we need to make a massive noise, and if we do that enough, the authorities will have to close it down and think again. Once we get a hotel closed, it never reopens to these people, which reduces the pool of hotels available that they can take, that can take these people in. If everyone follows the example of the Falkirk people, there would not be hotels to put them in, and at that point, Starmer's government would have a serious problem. We need to keep our protests sensible, well organised and peaceful at all times, peaceful all the way. This will put so much pressure on local authorities that they will have to buckle, and that we can keep doing this. We need to get this done before we are a minority, a hated racial minority, a hated white minority. We need to stop the boats, deport all illegals without exception, then we must implement a fully fledged remigration programme. Let us be clear, the small boats and illegal immigration is a problem, but this pales into comparison when looking at the number of legal migrants who enter Britain each year. It is important to point out that the grooming gangs scandal and the epidemic of knife crime has been carried out by those of migrant descent born on British soil. The whole Marxist multicultural rollout has to be unpicked and rolled back and thrown into the dustbin of history, along with anything else that will lead to our replacement. We need to keep up the pressure, Falkirk says no. The Erskine people won their epic struggle and got the Moo2 Hotel closed. With Swinney, the swine, and his recent remarks about the Scots, Scottish politicians once called us the Scottish people. They have now shifted to the people of Scotland, and now we are at people in Scotland, as they celebrate flooding Scotland with the so-called New Scots. These are conscious, rhetorical changes to subconsciously subvert and disconnect you from your Indigenous roots. Swinney said people in Scotland have the right to decide their future. We point out to Swinney, Sarwar and Starmer that we were never asked, never consulted, not even once. When non-natives kick off completely and unjustly to protect their tribe, our police take a softly approach or run away. They then engage with community leaders in order to negotiate the release of criminals to ease community tensions, or to release our children back into dangerous environments. When we, the native people, kick off, for just reasons, children being blown up at concerts, children being raped by foreigners, kids being stabbed at playgroup, our towns and our cities are being turned into dangerous shiteholes. There is no engagement with the community. We are simply viewed as a problem that needs to be fixed. You are now an extremist who needs to be monitored. You need to be censored on the internet for speaking too loudly and too honestly. As Keir Starmer said, your protests isn't legitimate. Your concerns will not be heard or addressed. Starmer, Sarwar and Swinney, the Uni Party, they need to go.
It's video.
We were never asked. Greetings and good wishes from the Erskine Says No campaign. In the years 2023 to 2024, we protested the local Moo2 Hotel being used as a holding pen for asylum seekers and fake refugees, just as you're doing now, and as the whole country is doing. We were the only act of defiance in Scotland at the time, and therefore subject to abuse by paid-off, bust-in enemies of the people, as you can see before you today. Despite constant harassment and doxing, police intimidation, physical assaults, and called-in passers-by, and even our own nationalist parties splintering and withdrawing support, and even briefly losing our ground, because we were actual native patriots, actual Scots. We fought back and held our ground until the Moo Hotel closed, and we got to watch Antifa and their goons drive off in shame and anger. What did we learn? That one should never accept any narrative coming from the enemies of the people. Never give in to their terms of abuse, their skewed version of history, or their pathetic view of morality. We, the Scots, did not support the foreign wars of the 20th century and have no responsibility for the refugee flows and no responsibility to accept the whims of capitalism or the depredations of the Israeli and American bombs in the Middle East. These people do not enrich our cultures. They do not make us richer. Our strength comes from within ourselves and our own generations yet to be born. And this country was built only by those Scots, who are our forefathers, who are our kith and kin. Every day we must give solidarity, loyalty and commitment to our fellow Scots. Courage is infectious. We are delighted that you have taken the step to stand up to this government and its paid lackeys and offer you brotherhood, partnership and support in your fight. We said no, Erskine said no, and now Falkirk save our kids, save our children. Falkirk says no. We were never asked.
Aye, definitely, 100%. Take my boy, because he wound him up and he answered him back. He's on the wrong side of the street, boys.
Darling.
Wrong side of the street. No, back off. I don't need to back off. I'm off. He's totally wrong.
You're a fucking paedophile, you nonsense cunt.
You stand up for yourself, boy.
You're fucking nonsense.
Aye, everyone.
Government fucking puppet nonsense.
That's absolutely shocking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them for one man. Oh, your pals away too.
Each year, it is important to point out the Granny Gang scandal and the epidemic of knife crime is being carried out by those of migrant descent on the British soil. This whole Marxist multicultural rollout has to be unpacked and rolled back and thrown into the dustbin of history, all with anything else that will lead to their replacement. Keep up the pressure, Falkirk, don't say no. The Erskine people won that ethnic struggle and got the Moo Hotel closed. The Swines recent remarks about the Scots politicians once called us the Scottish people They have now shifted their position to the people of Scotland, and now we are at the people in Scotland as they celebrate flooding Scotland with the so-called New Scots. These unconscious rhetorical changes to subconsciously disconnect you from your indigenous roots. Smithy said people in Scotland have the right to decide their future. We point out to Smithy, Starmer, we were never asked. We were never consulted, not even once. When non-natives kick off completely unjustly to protect their pride, our police take a softly approach and run away. And they engage with community leaders in order to negotiate the release of criminals to ease our tensions and the release of children back into dangerous environments. When the native people kick off for just reasons, children being blown up at concerts, children being raped by foreigners, Mexican start-up playgrounds, airtimes and cities being turned into dangerous shitholes. There is no engagement with the community. We are simply viewed as a problem that needs to be fixed. You are now an extremist who needs to be monitored. You need to be censored on the internet for speaking too loudly and too honestly. As Keir Starmer said, your protest isn't legitimate. Your concerns will not be heard or addressed. Starmer, Smithy, the Unity Party need to go. Have a look at patriotic independence Scotland and UK. We are very happy to see them. Listen to what Mark Collett has to say in Cladhan. Listen to Mark Collett and don't listen to the silent shouts trying to silence and break. Scotland for the schools, keep that way, keep that way.
It's not a little white.
No, but I can't.
You know, but this is a white country. Oh no, I'm your black relative, you're Scottish. I didn't want to talk to you, you're Scotsman. You're the... No, no, excuse me, he's
I